All right, ready to dig into something different. Let's talk about service innovation, specifically in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Interesting, right. Most people don't realize how much it impacts us.
We always think about, the latest tech, the cool gadgets, but what about those everyday services? The things that really drive our economies?
Yeah, it's easy to overlook them.
Exactly. And a new report from the Inter-American Development Bank, it really highlights this. Did you know that over 60% of the workforce in that region, Latin America and the Caribbean, it's all services?
It's huge, and what's fascinating is that this report goes beyond just stating the obvious.
Yep.
They actually quantify the impact. They say that if the service sector in Latin America and the Caribbean were as productive as, let's say, developed economies, we could be talking about a massive GDP boost.
Wow, that's a game changer. So this isn't just about making things a little bit better. This is about unlocking serious economic potential.
Exact.
But there's this kind of this stereotype, right, that services are low innovation, compared to something like manufacturing.
Oh, absolutely. It's a misconception that the report tackles head on.
Because you can't just lump all services together.
Right, and not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. A small barbershop innovates way differently than a global bank.
It's apples and oranges.
Exactly. And that's why traditional measurements of innovation, like how much money you're spending on R&D or how many patents you have, it doesn't always translate.
It'd be like a restaurant patenting their grandma's secret sauce recipe.
Or imagine a hair salon trying to patent a new haircutting technique.
Right. It just doesn't work that way.
It's about constant improvement, finding those smart ways to do more with less.
Okay, so we've established that the service sector in Latin America and the Caribbean, it's ripe for innovation, right? And the report actually dives into a really fascinating case study from Chile.
The Chilean example is interesting because they're not known for having these massive R&D budgets, yet they're showing everyone that you don't need to be a tech giant to innovate.
So it's about resourcefulness.
Exactly. Chilean service firms, especially in retail, they've really embraced e-commerce. They're integrating technology in such creative ways to improve their operations and the customer experience.
It's pretty inspiring, right? Seeing how they're making it work.
Absolutely. It shows what's possible.
And it got me thinking, are there any other countries or maybe regions that are doing this really well, like kind of leading the charge in service innovation? And I know the report mentions the European Union as a good example for Latin America and the Caribbean to learn from. So what are they doing that's so special?
You know, it's interesting. The EU, they've really taken a proactive approach. They recognize that this isn't just about like throwing money at the problem. It's about changing how you think about innovation, especially in the context of services.
So it's a whole different playbook then.
Yeah, and one of the key differences is how they define innovation itself. They're moving away from that narrow focus on R&D and embracing this much broader perspective.
So it's not just about labs and patents.
Right, exactly. It's about how you're improving your organization, new business models, even social innovation within services.
It sounds like they're rewriting the rules, realizing that innovation in this sector, it can look very different.
Yeah, and they have this initiative, I think it's called Innovation Union, and it really focuses on collaboration, getting different countries to work together on these projects with a big emphasis on services.
Cross-border collaboration, that's got to be huge.
Oh, absolutely. And they're also putting a lot of resources into digital skills training, which makes sense because you can have all this amazing technology, but if your workforce doesn't know how to use it, it's pointless.
Yeah, investing in people seems like a no-brainer.
Right. And it goes beyond just what governments are doing. Universities and research institutions, they have a big role to play too. The report talks about how important it is for them to team up with businesses to actually develop and put these innovative services into practice.
So it's about bridging that gap between theory and the real world.
Exactly. And when you think about it, the possibilities are endless, right?
Hmm.
Imagine what happens when you have experts in data science or artificial intelligence working side by side with businesses on the ground.
That's a game changer.
It really is. And it highlights a key point. In the service sector, innovation flourishes when you have these ecosystems where people share knowledge, they interact, they break down those silos, and they co-create.
So we've got Latin America and the Caribbean with so much potential. Then we've got the EU with their strategic approach. And it makes you wonder, can Latin America and the Caribbean, can they close that gap? Can they even become the leaders in service innovation?
It's the big question, isn't it? And the report actually suggests that while the region does face challenges, those challenges also present some really unique advantages.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not all doom and gloom. You're saying that they could actually come out ahead.
Potentially, yes. And it all comes down to perspective. We need to look beyond the traditional indicators and see the bigger picture.
Leapfrogging, huh? That's a bold idea, especially when we talk about innovation. What makes you think they can actually pull that off?
It's all about perspective. We tend to focus on the usual suspects, but Latin America and the Caribbean, they have a secret weapon, and it's their people.
Their secret weapon is their people.
Think about it. Young population, growing fast, and incredibly tech-savvy. They embrace new technologies like it's second nature. So they're not just keeping up with the times, they're actually ahead of the curve in some ways. Exactly. And that creates this incredible environment for innovation, especially when you consider their entrepreneurial spirit. They're not afraid to take risks, to try new things.
They have to be resourceful, right? Given some of the challenges they face.
Exactly. And that resourcefulness, it breeds ingenuity. They're coming up with solutions that are born out of necessity, but those solutions, they have the potential to be game changers on a global scale.
You mentioned mobile banking earlier. That's a prime example, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the report highlights another interesting sector, sustainable tourism.
Oh, right. Latin America and the Caribbean, they've got so much to offer in terms of natural beauty and culture.
Right, and imagine if they become the pioneers of sustainable tourism, setting the standard for the rest of the world.
It's like turning their challenges into opportunities, and in the process, creating a model for others to follow.
Precisely. It's about redefining what it means to be a leader, not just in terms of economic growth, but in terms of positive impact.
So for our listeners who are now fully immersed in the world of service innovation, what's the key takeaway here?
Service innovation, it's not just about incremental improvements, it's about tackling big challenges, creating opportunities, and building a better future. And Latin America and the Caribbean, they have the potential to lead the way.
It's a good reminder that innovation can come from anywhere, from anyone, and it's happening all around us. If you are as intrigued by this as we are, check out the full report from the Inter-American Development Bank. It's packed with insights. For now, keep those innovative ideas flowing, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.